So this is part 5, sound symbolism. This is a part of the presentation that, to me, I learned quite a bit. This was this was an unexpected consequence of researching for this topic. So, and this section specifically is going to take me out of my comfort zone a little bit because I'm going to do some chanting. Yeah. So this is going to be a little bit different. I've done plenty of chanting before, but not exactly uploaded into the public space on YouTube. So this is going to be a little bit different. Thankfully, this presentation, this part is not me just chanting. So you consider yourself lucky. Not that you get to hear me chant, but that I may just chant briefly, just to kind of demonstrate, right? This image, by the way, is from a Zen rock garden, really a Japanese garden, right? And I just wanted to, it's a beautiful image. I just wanted to point out that the element of water and the element of stone or earth here in this rock garden is they use water and stone interchangeably in Japanese rock gardens, for example. And these stones here represent the waves of the ocean. The larger pebbles or the larger rocks in the front, towards the front, represent the white water and the shore and the water, the waves crashing and collecting on the beach, of course. And then the ripples that go after those stones, that 7 or 8 ripples afterwards are the bigger waves. And then the deeper water is out in the combed area that's perpendicular to those waves. So if you ever have a chance to go to one of the more traditional Japanese gardens, say like the one they have in Portland, it's incredible. And make sure you get the tour. Go during a time when, look at the schedule and make sure you get the tour. Very much worth it. The Japanese garden is designed for you to come into all of your 5 senses. And there's very specific reasons for all of the placement. It's incredible. It's just incredible. So highly recommended if you have one in your town and you've never been. It's a great place to unwind. It's a great place to unlearn, and it's a great place to prepare yourself for many different things. Prepare yourself for sensing your world in a higher way, right? It's an incredible place to visit, so highly recommended. Okay, so let's get started with sound symbolism. So there's a measurement known as Schumann's resonance, and it's essentially an estimate of the average vibrational frequency of the Earth as measured between the ionosphere and the surface of the planet. This value is thought to be approximately 7.3 hertz on average. If you go on YouTube and you type in 7.3 hertz, earth music or healing music or something like that, you can play that and get an idea of what that sounds like. So resonance, from the Latin word resonare, means to sound again. Okay, the word re means again. It's also the old English word used for harmony is again, because a harmony is like repeated, right? And then sonaire is sound, of course, or sonus. This can be thought of as an echo. So this resonance is really an echo. It's sound waves vibrating and shaking back and forth, right? So they're just bouncing off back and forth off of the ionosphere and the earth, and there's this resonance happening, this sort of echo. It's really a movement of energy, of wave energy, right? So all that exists in our world, of course, is energetic in nature, right? And all energy fluctuates or moves. That's just the nature of energy, right? The word energy comes from the Greek energia, meaning active. And before that word, of course, the Proto-Indo-European root werg means to do. So it's a doing or it's an action. So everything in our physical manifest reality is an active doing or a vibrational energy at varying vibrational frequencies, right? Everything's in constant flux. Everything's energetic, and those energies, of course, have completely different frequencies in which they operate, in which they move, right? If all things in the universe are vibration, then, as the great third Hermetic principle states, this great third Hermetic principle, by the way, you can go online and Google the Kybalion, Kybalion, and the Kybalion is it's a very small, short book, and it essentially is I don't know if it's really a book, it's just a collection of the Hermetic principles of our reality and how it's constructed, essentially, from an esoteric point of view, of course. And that's the third Hermetic principle, is that all things are vibration, right? So also spoken words, which manifest in the air, have certain vibrational qualities, right? Which are unique to each vowel and consonant. Just like certain objects in reality, right? A flower, a bird, and a human being, everything that exists in manifest reality has a certain and unique vibrational frequency, right? Our vibrational frequency as human beings is going to differ from that of other animals, from plants, etc. But every type of thing in the manifest universe that we live in, everything in nature, has a different vibrational frequency. Like things, all human beings are within a certain range, right? All certain animals, like bears, for example, might be in another range. There's also, I'm not sure if this relates to it, but there is a theory of morphic resonance or morphic fields that is discussed by Rupert Sheldrake, who's a biologist, and he has a very interesting idea about the memory of different fields, of how it is that we have the shape we have and how our offspring have that similar shape, and how does that exactly play out, right? Because it turns out that DNA and protein folding and the process involved in DNA replication does not explain the actual shapes, right? The shape of your nose, the shape of your ears, etc., isn't determined by that. At least that's as far as we can tell, right? There's something else happening, some unseen force, and it's related to this resonance or this unique vibrational frequency that makes a human look like a human, makes a baboon look like a baboon, right? So morphic fields is an interesting area to look into. So it should be no surprise that the original name givers, which formed the languages we speak, if they were wise and observant, right? Well, we presume they were, but maybe some weren't. If they were wise and observant, they carefully created words for objects and concepts in our reality which were best suited and most accurately symbolized the associated actions observed in nature, the mental images, and the emotional states these words invoke in the human being, right? You wouldn't want to just arbitrarily, I suppose you could arbitrarily assign noises you make with your face to something you see in nature, right? But it would probably make more sense if something in nature had a certain quality or made a certain noise to begin with, that you would either mimic that or you would come up with some sort of sound that, through careful observation, would most closely resemble that thing that exists in nature, whatever that is, right? And so that's what seems to be the pattern in a lot of words, especially the words of deep importance, right? Words having to do with divinity, with writing, with laws, etc. There seems to be, and of course, nature. And certain cultures and languages pay very careful attention to this. Actually, I think they all do if you really go back far enough. So don't forget that human beings are nearly 2/3 water. And that can fluctuate somewhere between 50% to 75%. And water ripples and changes based on the specific vibrations it is exposed to. Even without speaking, your thoughts and emotional states evoke a certain vibrational change within you, right? So just imagine how powerful an impact words projected into the air have. This vibrational energy from your throat generates incredible power. Mastering this power can change the world for those who have something to say, right? It can really change the world for anyone who can master their throat chakra, right? This, of course, is a still image from the movie A Star is Born. And Lady Gaga is obviously very powerful in her voice. She is very powerful in her throat chakra. And if you haven't seen this movie, it's amazing because she doesn't believe in herself. And she meets this guy. He's a successful musician. He's very troubled, right? But he recognizes her gift. And it's really great because she doesn't see her own gift. She doesn't have confidence in her gift. She knows she has a gift. The people around her know she has a gift, but she's not really utilizing the full power of her gift into the world. She's not realizing it into the world, right? She doesn't have enough confidence. And this man comes along, changes everything for her. And it's a beautiful movie, and I thought this would be a great. And of course, this is Stars Born is a remake, I think, of the Chris Christopherson, Barbara Streisand, Barbara Streisand film of the same name. They made in the 70s, and I think there was one before that in the 60s. So yeah, great, awesome movie. So specific vowel sounds can be compared to things that are found in nature, right? This just makes sense. And there's many words that we can use we can look at that'll prove this. The word vowel itself, now there's something different about vowels when we're talking about vowels and consonants, right? The vowel is actually very, it's like the glue that holds everything together. But the word vowel itself comes from the Latin vox, meaning voice. Vowels sustain and carry sound from the throat into the world. So that's it's not resonance. It's assonance, and we'll talk about that. That the power of the voice really is driven by the vowel sound, right? So the study of phonosemantics, or sound symbolism, in language was discussed in the sacred texts of ancient India. And it has some interesting things to say about the nature of certain specific sounds which seem to hold true throughout the cultures and languages of the world. And we'll see this very interesting phenomena, which is something that's new to me, and I've just recently discovered this, right? Let me read this quote from the Upanishads. Who is better able to know God than I myself, since he resides in my heart and is the very essence of my being? Such should be the attitude of one who is seeking, right? So these name givers, these are obviously tuned in people, right? And through careful observation, they recognized, they didn't really decide. This isn't, we often see things historically as just accidental decisions, right? A lot of things are, but when it comes to first causes, when it comes to creating things that are coming from, that are directly divinely inspired from nature, these aren't accidents, right? There's a reason, there's a very deep reason, and it comes from very tuned in sages that are in touch with themselves and in touch with the world around them, right? Without the wisdom of these name givers and the wisdom of the ancients in general, we probably wouldn't have gotten this far, right? Despite all of the suffering and wars and all of those things, without those people, it would almost be like starting over every second, third, fourth generation, because information just gets lost, right? But when you find something that's so, it strikes you so strongly, it's so deep, and you recognize the truth in something throughout your entire spirit. That's something you want to hold on to, and you want to teach the world, right? And those profound insights and teachings have sustained us and have been brought up again and again by very insightful people, showing the world these teachings in different ways for a modern audience, for example, right? That we see that all through history. So the mute consonants, this is a quote here. The mute consonants represent the earth, the sibilants, the sky, the vowels, heaven. The mute consonants represent fire, the sibilants, air, the vowels, the sun. The mute consonants represent the eye, the sibilants, the ear, the vowels, the mind, right? There is this, the vowels are bringing things up and out into the world, right? The heavens, the sun, and the mind, right? So vowel sounds representing the sun, heaven, and gods have traveled all the way. So this idea has traveled all the way from ancient Indo-Persian languages, from Sanskrit and Old Persian, all the way to modern day English, right? So the original intent from the name givers in many words is still with us. And we'll go and look at some of these words. Just in the same way, deities travel across the expanse of many cultures, right? Many deities have traveled and transformed themselves over thousands of years. And certain people may think these are our own and they're completely different than the deities from the ancient world, but they're exactly the same, right? Aphrodite traveled across the Middle East and Turkey and, Persia and all of these places to the west, but before she was Aphrodite, she was Ishtar, and before that, Inanna, and before that, there was all of these different iterations, but essentially it's the same deity. And the same is true for the words and these specific vowel sounds that were in the words. The notion that vowel sounds represent heaven and subsequently deities, right, can be found throughout the world's religions. And it's very clear. When I was researching this part of the presentation, I put together this slide. It almost seemed like it was it was quite eye-opening for me. I know that there's probably plenty of mystics and theosophists and occult students that have made this realization, but it was nice. It was nice for me to see this. Take, for example, the names for deities or enlightened beings throughout world religions and their respective languages. The vowel sound of ah, right, is especially prevalent, and you can see it in so many different deities. God, Brahma, Ahura Mazda, Yahweh, Jehovah, Allah, Buddha, Krishna, Shiva, Mahavira, Ra, Yeshua, Isa, right? They all have that rising, that heavenly vowel sound, right? Okay, that's great, but what about Jesus, right? He doesn't have that rising, right? So what's the deal there? Because he's supposed to be, right, the Son of God, right? Well, there's a reason for that, a very good reason. So why doesn't the name Jesus contain the ah sound? Even though the original Hebrew name, Yeshua, and the Arabic Isa most certainly do, right? Those, of course, are far older languages than English. The letter J, which makes the J or J sound in English, only came into use about 1,600 years after the death of Jesus, right? So about 400 years ago, the letter J in its current form was used. Before that, it wasn't used in the English language. It didn't exist. Or if it did exist, it didn't have this J or J sound. It had more like an E sound or an I sound. The Greek Testament translated the Hebrew Yeshua from Hebrew to Greek as Iasus or Jesus, right? So you still kind of have that that Iasus or Jesus, right? But it's kind of goes away as soon as you add the J. So English, being a Franco-Germanic hybrid language, replaced the first letter of I from the Greek translation with a J. So Iasus or Jesus became Jesus or Jesus, thereby the completely English contrived name of Jesus. So if you really, if you're wanting to use the original name and have the original power, right? The original association, then you would probably just want to use Yeshua, right? Or Isa if you want, but Yeshua. So the name of Jesus is far removed from its original phonosemantic origins in the English language. And this is rather ironic to think that both the Hebrew and Arabic pronunciations of the name of Jesus retain the original energetic reverence of his name, while the primary language of most Christians does not. Right? Do you see the irony in that? So, ah is the most universally appealing and high vibrational sound, one of the most high vibrational sounds in the world, right? And this, of course, is the holy, these are the three magi that are recognizing the arrival of the second coming of Jesus. No, I'm kidding. So this ah sound, this is the wonderful glowing kitty. It's a beautiful image. I wouldn't be mad if that was the deity that came back to earth to save mankind. That would be fine. Along with it being used, this awe sound, along with it being used to form the various names of God throughout the languages of the world, it is used in moments of sudden insight, right? Revelation, relief, and liberation. All of these qualities or actions are divine inspiration, it seems, right? The word epiphany is used to describe something which suddenly comes into view. You had an epiphany, right? Something just occurred to you. That sudden clarity brings about a new vision, a new perspective, and a sense of wonderment and awe. You're awed by this realization that you have, right? This sense comes over you and you're like, wow, right? A high vibrational feeling permeates the senses in a state like this when this epiphany occurs to you, right? Awe is the sound one makes when they experience relief from suffering, often followed by something akin to thank God, right? Not always, but this right? It's a very, very relieving sound, right? It's elevating. The proverbial aha moment, right, is an enlightening or satori of sorts when one simultaneously feels in their body and soul realizing a certain truth. Maybe you're trying to put something together, or you're trying to get something to work. And then finally you have this aha, I got it, right? I know what it is. I know how to fix it. I know how to solve the problem, right? Of course, the ha 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 of laughter, right, is a similar type of sudden realization when you hear a joke, right? You hear the premise and you're thinking in one direction, and then when you hear the punchline, it takes you in a totally different direction. You're surprised and ha ha ha, you laugh. That's another epiphany. That's another sudden revelation. You're just like, that's, something surprising, right? This awe in eureka, right, is another example associated with making a discovery. Also, at the doctor's office or the dentist, they say, you say ah to open fully. More so the doctor, right? I don't think my dentist has ever said, say ah. So the more open you can be, the more truth one can receive, right? So this opening lets in the possibilities, right? When one is in awe, they are beholding a person or thing in wonderment and high regard, right? And the expression awe, right, is used in observance of something pure and innocent, something cute, right? Such as the three magi here. They see the holy, glowing kitten of ultimate salvation of mankind, and they go, right? Hi, this is the end of this part of the video. Stay tuned for the continuation next week. If you enjoy what I'm doing, please subscribe, hit the like button, and feel free to add your comments as well. Thanks so much for watching. See you next week.